Justin Huber. I'm covering for Mr. Ryan today. I'm usually at High Point, so we'll be doing... Hey, guys. All right, let's start singing here. I was lost. And I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash, I'm born again. Forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than my words could say. I'll follow you for all my days. Fix my eyes following your ways. Forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are right in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, oh. The darkest night, let your love be the shining light, breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down to set me free. And everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face, and I will live that your will be done. And I won't stop till your kingdom come. Let's sing it out. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are light in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, oh. You're my freedom. We lift you higher. Hey! You are, you're my freedom. We lift you higher, lift you higher. Your love, never ending. Oh, oh, oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh.
All right, Midpoint, we're gonna be singing a new song. We got some fun hand movements, so if you just watch Justin and I think we're gonna have a really good time.
Let's get that clap going, everybody. There you go.
You have brought me to the water, where my past can be swept away in the current of your mercy. And I know I'll never be the same. There's no limit to your promise. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Jesus, you have done it all for me.
All right, everybody, hands up. Let me show you how this is done. Grace comes alive, away, crashing over me. Grace comes alive, away, crashing over and over and over. There you go. Good job, guys. There's healing in the water, with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Forgiveness in the water, with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Salvation in the water, with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. All right, last time, hand motions, here we go. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over.
Crashing over and over and over. Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's sing it out. There's healing in the water. There's healing in the water, with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Forgiveness in the water, with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Salvation in the water, with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. All right, thanks for singing that new one with us, guys. So Matt's going to get up here in a little bit, and he's going to keep talking through our series on reality TV and kind of your guys' relationships with family. Now, this is a little pop quiz for you guys. By a show of hands, how many of you guys have ever been frustrated by your family at one point or another? Okay, that's what I thought. So Matt's going to be talking about that. But before we do that, we're going to be talking through the idea that no matter what happens with our families, sometimes they can be frustrating. At the end of the day, we all have a good Father. So why don't you guys sing this last one with us here? No, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. Sing it out. You're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. And I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
That was awesome. I'm Nathan. Hi. Hi, guys. And I'd like to share a testimony with you guys. So when we were at camp, we did this little message on Saturday morning, and I prayed that I would lead somebody to God. And the words, "I will," were repeated in my head a lot of times. And when we got back on Sunday, I went to church the next day, and this girl comes to lunch and sits right across from me. We start talking about God. And then the next day, we were walking the track, and she told me about her family and how it wasn't ideal. And I invited her to church on Sunday, and she came, and what Matt said was perfect for what I think she needed to hear. And so today, I hope that whatever Matt says, speaks to you. And so I would like to pray. So, dear Jesus, thank you for today. I pray that Matt is here and he will speak to each and every one of these kids. And I pray that you will be here with them and that you are a good father. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? Okay, so first of all, I want to thank Justin who led us in worship this morning. He's the High Point worship leader, but the reason why I was here is because Ryan couldn't be here today because unfortunately his grandmother passed away. Ryan, our normal worship leader, and so he's up with his family. The funeral was yesterday, and what I thought we could do to kind of get started is just to kind of pray for him. And I'm curious if I would love for one of you students to pray for him. Anybody? Yeah, come up here. Will you come up here and pray for him? And everybody just kind of pray along with us. Okay, go ahead.
Dear Father, please help Ryan's family and help Ryan to get through these hard times because you're a good father no matter what you do. Please help him not to grieve but to celebrate the lovely life that his grandma lived. In your name, amen.
Amen. Good job. Have a seat. So when you see Ryan next week, ask him. Be like, hey, how'd it go? We were praying for you. Make sure that he knows that we love him and care so much about him. Today we're going to do our second week of this series called Reality Show. All right, and in all these reality shows, there's a lot of reality shows that have to do with families, right? And many of us, we realize our family's kind of crazy, and if TV cameras followed us around, they could make a reality show about our family. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more today. But before we do, one of the examples that I'm going to have today has to do with a game called Jenga. All right, if there are any people who love Jenga and you're like an expert at Jenga, I actually need like 2 volunteers for Jenga. Okay, why don't you 2 guys just come on up? Yeah, come on up. All right, 2 Jenga guys. So here's the deal. I need one of you to stand on this side and one of you on this side. If you will go ahead and get these like really large Jenga blocks and just start setting it up. Just start setting it up as you normally would with Jenga. And as they do that, the truth is when you watch a reality show, particularly whether it's with family or anything, there's always a troublemaker in these reality shows, right? There's always someone that when they enter the room, it gets crazy. People are frustrated with them, and it happens a lot. In fact, there's also troublemakers in our families, aren't there? Right? You may have brothers and sisters who are troublemakers. Maybe you have crazy cousin Eddie who's frustrating and annoys you all the time. But the truth is that there's all kinds of crazy things. And what happens is this frustration leads us to arguments. All right, let's stop right there. You guys are good right there. All right, here's what happens. When we are arguing with our family members, all right, we're really frustrated with them. Usually what's happening is we're just kind of like taking cheap shots at each other. And we just kind of keep powering up against each other. Now, I want you guys to, who wants to go first? All right, you go first. All right, so start playing the game. They're going to start playing Jenga, and if you are unfamiliar with Jenga, essentially what happens here is that he's looking for like really loose blocks. All right, he's looking for the loose one, and he's going to get one, he's going to push it through, and he's going to add it on top. Okay, and when you're arguing with your family members, it's very similar to Jenga. All right, because essentially what you're doing is you're going the easy way out, you're taking cheap shots at each other, and as you do, and as you argue, you're essentially powering up on each other, right? Like one person says one comment, and then you try to go above them and say a more harsh comment. You're like, oh yeah, well what about this? Oh yeah, well what about that? Oh yeah, well what about this? Right? And you just keep arguing and arguing and arguing as it piles up more and more and more, and then what happens at the end of the Jenga game? It all comes crashing down, right? The same thing happens when you're arguing with your family, all right? It'll just all come crashing down eventually because someone says something at the end that just demolishes it, right? Someone goes crying and goes into their room or whatever, and next thing you know, it is game over. All right, how are we doing? Okay, wait, pause right there. All right, this is getting kind of crazy. You guys are doing pretty good. Nobody's lost yet. All right, why don't you guys go have a seat, all right? Go have a seat. Give it up for these guys. So clearly, if they were to keep playing, it would have kept getting higher and higher and higher, and next thing you know, it all comes crashing down. And this is what happens with our family when we're arguing. And so the question is today, how do we change this, right? How do we fix our family members? Right? Because our family members, they need fixing, don't they? Right? They're frustrating at times, whether it's brothers or sisters or parents or cousins or whoever it is, they need to be fixed, right? So how do we stop them from frustrating us? How do we stop them from the arguing that we have? Well, the good news is I have the answer for you. All right, I've got the answer today. I want you to stay tuned to this answer. Now, the first people I want to talk to about this are those of you sitting out there right now who call yourselves Christians. All right, if you come here and you're like, I come to church all the time, I've dedicated my life to Jesus, right? I'm committed to following Jesus with everything that I have. You used to be one way, but now you're another way, and you're like, everything in my life, it swings with Jesus, right? Like I'm all about him. If that's you, I'm going to talk to you first. All right, I have some scripture for you, but here's the deal. I want to be honest with you. The answer that I have to you about this question, it's not going to seem very satisfying at first. All right, you're just going to have to hang with me a little bit because here's what happens. Paul is writing to this group of people, the Colossians, and he's writing to the Christians. He's writing to people who have given their life to Christ and, they've turned over a new leaf, and so he's kind of pumping them up because here's what happens. When you give your life to Jesus and you're like, I'm dedicating my life to him, I'm asking him forgiveness for all of my sins, what you're attempting to do is to become as close to Jesus as you can. You're trying to follow his example. But it doesn't always work, does it? We still make mistakes at times. And so Paul is talking to the Colossians about the fact that, you're Christians, but you're making mistakes. And here's what he says. In verse 7, he says, you used to walk in these ways, in the life you once lived. But now you must also rid yourself of all such things as these. Get rid of anger and rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices. All right, so essentially, what Paul is saying is that when you encounter other people, you need to be the better person. Right? Stop arguing so much with them. Stop having so much anger and rage and malice in your heart. In fact, he's like, we need to follow the example of Jesus. Imagine if Jesus had like rage in his heart for us. Imagine if like Jesus was one of your family members and you were like arguing with him and he was just like really rageful and angry. Like I can't even imagine that. Right? Well, another thing that I can't imagine, one of the things it says not to do, it says don't use filthy language. Okay, I don't know if you ever thought about this before, but like what if Jesus said a cuss word? Right? Like how weird would that be? If Jesus like said a cuss word, and what cuss word would he say? And I don't even want to go there, all right? I don't even want to go there with what Jesus would say in his cuss words, but because the truth is he wouldn't say it, right? Jesus wouldn't do this. And And so that's what he's saying. He's like, listen, follow my example. I want you to do as I do. In fact, when it comes to people who we're arguing with and we're having a hard time with, Jesus gives us this example. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 39, it says, if someone slaps you on the right cheek, all right, turn to them the other cheek also. Many of you have heard this before. Turn the other cheek. Okay, now, he's not speaking like, hey, I know that you guys get slapped all the time, so just keep turning your cheeks. Like, no. I'm not talking about that. And I'm talking about these cheeks, not these cheeks. And when someone slaps you, turn the other one. All right, okay, I'm talking about these guys. All right, here's the deal. What he's saying is that if someone hurts you, if someone says something bad against you, all right, instead of just saying something right back to them, you should turn the other cheek and be like, okay, just kind of walk away. In fact, if you continue on reading in that area, Jesus says, love your enemies. And guess who this also means? This means your brother and sister. This means your parents. All right? This means anybody and everybody in your family. All right? Because sometimes they're your enemies. Right? Sometimes they're tattletaling on you or whatever else. And what Jesus is saying, if you're a Christian in this room, okay, and you're trying to follow Jesus, that's what you're going to do. Even with your brothers and sisters and your parents, you're going to turn the other cheek at times. When they get on to you and when they start yelling at you, all right, you're not going to yell back at them. You're not going to get the next level of insult to them. You're not going to use filthy language against them. You're just going to chill, right? You're just going to let them do it. And I know this is really difficult to do, but here's the deal. I want to convince you that not only should you do this, and not only does Jesus want you to do this, but it's actually better for you. All right, in fact, even if you're not a Christian here, even if you're kind of new to this whole church thing, and you're still trying to figure out Jesus, I think that it's going to be better for you to do those things as well. And here's why, okay? Now, there was this lady one time, I was with a friend of mine, and we were living in Chicago, and we were pulling out in the car, right? We were in the car, we're like pulling out onto this street, and the person I was with accidentally cut this lady off, okay? And she got really mad, okay? Like super mad, like super road rage. How many of you have seen someone getting road rage before? You've seen it? Yeah. Some of you are like, yeah, my dad is like, yeah. Okay, this lady was nuts, all right? Like, literally, she comes up next to us, and as she comes up next to us, I'm like, the window's up, so I'm kind of mouthing like, I'm really sorry, like, I'm trying to be kind to her, but she is just, like, going berserk, y'all. Like, she's looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, get your hands on the wheel, and she's just, like, yelling at me and just going nuts, and then I just start looking straight ahead, because I'm like, this is not helping me at all to kind of engage in this with her. So I just start looking straight ahead. But in my peripheral vision, I can see that she's still going crazy. All right, I mean, it was like halfway down the road, like she's still going crazy and yelling at me and getting on to me and whatever. And so I kind of just thought it would be funny to just show her what she sort of looked like. So like out of nowhere, I just looked at her, I was like, and she stopped right then and there. And she just stared at me and then looked straight back ahead and then started driving off, okay? It was one of those sort of weird, awkward moments. But listen, what if before that moment happened, what if we would have pulled over and she would have like let me have it, right? And she would have just been like pointing her finger at me. And then what if I would have started doing the same thing at her and just started yelling at her and getting mad at her in that moment? You know what would have happened? Not only would she have been boiling mad and hot, I would have been too. Quite honestly, it probably would have ruined the rest of our day or at least the next couple of hours. Okay, but as she pulled off, okay, she was really frustrated. All right, she was having a really hard time. I was totally fine. Right? Like everything was totally fine with me. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't frustrated. I was apologetic, but I kind of moved on really quickly. You see, what happens in these moments when we get frustrated at someone and we kind of attack them and we go after them, we're actually hurting ourselves more than we're hurting them. Right? We're trying to hurt them, but we're causing ourselves to sort of just get boiled up over and over and over again. In fact, my two guys that play Jenga, come on back up here. Come on back up. I want you to come back up and I want you to continue to play Jenga. Okay, because here's what's happening. All right, what's happening is, if she and I were to keep yelling at each other, then we both would have been sort of playing this game, and we both would have been, getting it larger and larger and larger. It would have become more unstable and more unstable, and then it comes just completely crashing down. But what if you change things? In fact, hold on just a second. What I want you to do, I want you to stay up here, and I want you to just go have a seat. All right, just walk away. Just go have a seat. That's good. And I want you to just start playing by yourself, all right? Just keep playing by yourself. Just keep doing it. Because here's what happens. When we engage with someone and we start yelling at them and crazy things are happening, okay, we are in the line of fire with them, in the cause of destruction. But if we walk away like he just did, if things are kind of crazy and we decide, I'm not going to argue with this person, I'm not going to engage with them, I'm not going to fight with them, we are now out of the way of destruction. Because you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. He's going to keep building this higher and higher and higher, and eventually what's going to happen? This right here. Next thing you know, it's over, right? It's over. Yeah, okay, you can clap. You can take a seat now. You can take a seat. You see, in that moment, he's in the path of destruction. And you can allow that to happen, right? You can just say, okay, I can see that there's tense things happening in my family. And instead of powering up on them and, oh yeah, but you, oh yeah, but you, oh yeah, but you, and then you're both there while it comes crashing down, one of the things that you could do is just get out of there, right? Just walk away. You do not have to engage. In fact, what's happening here in this moment is that you are choosing to control yourself. Because what can't happen, what you cannot do with anybody else in this world is you cannot control them. I know you try to. I know if you're like me, I tried to control my brother by like beating him up or, like pinning him down or something like that. And like, you will not do this again. But many of you have seen this happen. It doesn't really work long term, does it? Right? Your brother or sister still does it later on down the road. It doesn't completely work. And all you've done in that moment is not only are they mad, but you've gotten mad at them and it sort of ruins part of your day. Then one of your parents come in and they get on to you and you get in trouble and all this destruction is happened because you've allowed yourself to be in that way. But you can change you. You are in control of your life. You're not in control of your parents' life. You're not in control of your brother's or sister's life. You are in control of your life. All right, so not only does God not want you to do this, not only does God want you to just kind of get away from the situation, not only does God want you to be kind to other people, but he's also saying this is for your own good. You can let other people destroy themselves and be in the path of destruction, but you shouldn't do it. Because here's the truth. I realize that many of you have like little petty things that happen with your family, when stuff happens. But there's also deep things that are happening with your family too, right? Some of your parents aren't getting along. Maybe your dad lost his job. Maybe something's going on with your aunts and uncles or whatever. Maybe there's just some family drama out there. And the truth is, much of that stuff you cannot control. You can't. All right? You're not in charge in those situations. What you can control, though, is how you react to it. All right? It's how you react to it. And here's what happens, okay? Part of what happens is that it's almost like when things like this happen in our life, we get irritated, right? When our family's not going well, or our brother or sister says something mean to us, or we just have a bad day, quite honestly. We get irritated. All right, and it's sort of like clothing yourself with some really uncomfortable clothing. All right, now, first of all, I have these two jackets here. This jacket right here is one of my favorite jackets. It's a fleece jacket. It's super comfortable. Like, I absolutely love this jacket. But this jacket right here, someone bought it for me, and I've literally only worn it once, and it's a really uncomfortable jacket. And the reason is because it's made of wool. I don't know if you guys have ever worn wool before, but this is a wool jacket, and it's just like really itchy. Okay, like you have to wear like full sleeves and whatever, and maybe it doesn't matter. It just itches. It's ridiculous. And so I've only worn it one time, because oftentimes when I wear this, like throughout my day, it's just frustrating and it's irritating, and I get short-tempered with people at times, right? Because when there's something in our life that's irritating us, next thing we know, we start hurting other people. Right? Because we get so much more short-tempered in that way. Like, think about this. When you're at school and something bad happens at school, and you get a bad test grade or whatever it is, you're irritated. Like, your day, you've basically clothed yourself in irritating fabric, right? And when you get in, someone might say something to you, and it sets you off like it shouldn't, right? You walk in, and your brother or sister is like, hey, you want to play a video game with me? And you're like, no, stop it, get away. You're like, whoa, what? Like, all I did was ask for you to play a video game, and you yelled at them, right? And part of it is because You've been irritated that day, right? And so what we should do is clothe ourselves with something different. In fact, if we look at a few verses down, we look at Colossians chapter 3, verses 12 and 14. It says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Go back to that first verse, that verse 12. It says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, and gentleness. All right, put on something a little more comfortable. And here's how you do that. All right, when you recognize that you're having an irritating day and crazy things are happening with you, this is where I think God and only God can help change you. Because many of you have tried this before where you're like, I'm just going to forget about it and walk in and it doesn't change. I think that God is the one that needs to change you. And so what you can do next time when you're having an irritating day, you're just like, God, help me take off that irritation and help me clothe myself with kindness and compassion so that when I engage with my family, that it's all good. Right? You just pray to the Lord. You ask him, like before you walk in your house, or maybe whenever it is, maybe you had a bad day on the baseball field. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to get with your family at times. You're going to forget about this, and you're going to say something mean to them. And what I hope is that God helps you identify in that moment, hey, you're covered with irritation, right? You're a little itchy right now, okay? And then you just pause in that moment and pray to God and say, God, help me right now. Help me to clothe myself with something more comfortable so that I can engage with my family better. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep piling up and piling up and piling up, and you are going to be in the path of destruction yourself. You see, listen, every family is frustrating. Every single one. Every family is frustrating, so you need to focus on changing yourself. You can't change them. You can't change the circumstances that you have. Every family is frustrating, so focus on changing yourself. And here's part of what this means. Is that when you're in your small groups today, here's what I know what happens because I've sat in some of your small groups. When we talk about your family or your friends or whatever else it is, what you tend to do in something like this is you tend to point the finger at someone else. You know, you're like, yeah, my brother and sister, they're horrible, and let me tell you why. You know, you just go with it. Or maybe even in your mind right now, you're thinking, they should be here right now listening to this message. You know, like mom or dad, they should be here. Maybe your brother or sister is in the room, and you've kind of given them eyes, you know, like, you hear this? All right, you're hearing this one right now? All right, listen, don't do that. All right, don't do that because you can't change them. All right, you can't change them. You can only change yourselves. So when you get into your small group today, and you start talking and someone starts complaining about their brother or sister or mom, you know, they say something, you'd be like, no, stop it right there. Don't do it. You're like, no, but you don't understand. My dad is always, and you're like, stop, don't do it, all right? You can change yourself. You're like, no, but my brother, he said to me the other day, zippity doo dah day, stop it. All right, don't do it right now in our small group because we're going to talk more about how we can change ourselves. All right, so that's what I want you to do. Don't let each other bad talk family members. All right, now I'm not saying that you can't share with some difficult things that are going on in your family. You can do that. All right, you can do that. But then you have to realize that at some point you got to remove yourself from some of that. You cannot keep engaging and keep arguing and keep hurting each other. Because you can only change yourself. All right, now, in just a second, you guys are going to get up into your small groups. All right, and here's what's going to happen. The first thing I want you to do, by the way, is I'm usually up here after service, and I want to pray with you. All right, I can pray for anything and everything. It doesn't have to be family stuff. It could be anything in your life. If you want prayer or you just want to talk to me, quite honestly, come right up here after service and let me pray with you. All right, in your small groups today, all the girls are going to stay in this room. All the guys, you're going to go across the hall. Have a great week.
Call the sheep.